Hello, everyone. Welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I am your host, Rhino Clavin, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the worst first date attractions. And to join me for this discussion, we've got Mr. Charles Boda.
Hey, folks.
Miss Teresa Eccles.
Hey.
And Mr. Craig Williams.
Oh, hoy, hoy.
Well, technically, you're a Mrs. I just realized I've called you Miss twice, but
That's okay.
you're always a Miss in my heart.
Call me Ms.
Ms. But we had a fun discussion about the best first date attractions, and we've got an even more fun one about the worst date attractions. I don't know if it will be more fun, but I think so. And we're going to start right off with one that Craig said was terrible, and I understandably why. It's your first date, and you bring somebody on this attraction. What is it, Craig? Spaceship Earth. That's what it is.
I was going to say, I suggested like 3 of them, so you're going to have to be a little more specific.
It's Spaceship Earth. Tell us why that's terrible.
Okay, so here we can go and look at this like, oh, you're at Epcot, you're looking for one of the best ones to take you on a first date.
Shoulder.
Like, shoulder to shoulder, dark moments. Oh, you got all of those.
That was the yawn move for you people who don't know.
You got all of those in there, minus the fact that you have Dame Judi Dench narrating this for you. So when you start up that
the
hill,
Phoenicians, you French them.
you start up the hill like a grand and miraculous journey. It's like, I don't know if there's any sense of romanticism in this entire attraction. I love Spaceship Earth. I think it is, especially at Epcot, it is one of my go-tos, but there is absolutely nothing romantic. And then to make it even more awkward on the way down, when you're planning your future together on your first date, so we'll have to see what do we prefer, living on the farm or in the city?
It'd be easy to be first and last date if they were totally opposite of what you would want, though, right?
Well, so I guess there are benefits to that, but I just like, then like you're going past like anything like Rome Falls. It's just
learning about the printing press doesn't put you in an amorous mood.
It absolutely.
The garage in the 70s, I thought was the most romantic part.
Garage in the
there's the only part where you're like, yeah, this was worth it. Was right when you finally get to the top and the music soars and start the way back down and see the lights. It's just,
and then it crushes it because you got to build a future together with someone that you're on your first date
and you're like, oh, cool. What if it's not going great? And you're like, yeah, this will be fun. We're going to find out exactly how opposite we are. You want to live in the city? I want to live in the country. You like health? I don't care. Like,
right?
It's a weird.
And then the awkward little face of yours that comes out.
Like,
it's only half my head.
Well, last time I turned by accident, and so my neck was like spun all the way around, so the face was going the other way, and it was the most horrifying future I've ever seen. But understandably so. For me, personally, I think the worst first date attraction I could go on would be the teacups. I get motion sickness, and if somebody was like, this is my favorite ride, and I can't leave the state without doing it, and I'd be like, well, I'm going to vomit on you. So I don't want anything where anybody's going to get too sick or nauseous, because then they're going to associate you or your activity with that feeling of nausea or like sickness or whatever. So you don't want to start out your relationship with that, Save it for later.
Save it for after you get married.
Save it for the excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get that, though. Like, Teresa has ridden the teacups with me, and she knows how I enjoy riding the teacups. And
it was our first date.
And it was.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Oh, they were to be had, but I take advantage of the teacups. If you can spin it as quickly as you possibly can, why wouldn't you?
See, I'm the other way.
What a nightmare.
I just want to gently glide along in the pretty little cup, and watch the other people. And he's like,
opposites attract.
Yeah, it was scary.
Here's what I say to that date. I'll watch you from the sideline.
Not to mention, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. I'm done. What was mine? Did I have one?
Yeah, you do. Craig has another one on here, though, and I actually have never done this attraction, so I can't speak to it, but the American Adventure in Epcot.
Talk about a mood killer. And we've got one more very similar to this. It's very similar to Spaceship Earth. Like, you're on a first date, unless you both are history majors, like down visiting Epcot. Like, you know what? We're going to take in culture. We're going to take in history. I don't understand who would ever choose this as a first date. Like, oh, let's go watch a rousing 50-minute show about the entire history of the United States as told by Benjamin Franklin and Mark Twain. Like,
Yeah, it would be a mood killer. Like you said, unless you're...
What if they're two history teachers?
well, that's what I said right at the start of it. Unless you're that, I don't understand who could like it. Like, it's essentially the equivalent of the Office episode where instead of getting the male stripper, they call Benjamin Franklin. It's like essentially the same thing as that.
Didn't you have syphilis? Yeah. I was thinking the only person I can think of who would like that is Greg from American Housewife. That was where he would take somebody on a first date.
And I like it. I think it's actually a really well done show. But like, we're talking 50 minutes. That is a commitment. That's saying, you know what? It's like taking a first date on a movie. Why don't we have our first date be a place where we sit in a room together and don't talk for hours?
And all
you
you're doing
find
is
real
thinking
life.
about, is he really liking this? Because I can't stand it. Or I hope he really likes this because I love it.
Yeah.
You know? You got all that time to think about it.
I'll never understand movie first dates because that's when you're like, the whole idea is you're supposed to be getting to know each other. And then if I find out you're a talker in a movie, we're not going to dinner.
My first date with Kelvin was a movie, Back to the Future.
Oh.
It's a good movie, though.
That's a good one. Yeah, that worked
Very
out.
first date. And I remember absolutely everything about it. Fighting over the armrest, you know. Gosh,
Marty almost becoming involved with his mother.
Yeah.
Everything.
And then we had
great
a
date
late
movie.
dinner after to talk about the movie. So it was, you know.
See, that works. That's a cute story now, but we can't
the
all get back to the
drive-in.
future.
Oh, drive-in. That's an
Yeah.
acceptable place to talk through a movie because you're literally listening to it through your freaking
You don't
car
like
radio.
talkers at the movies?
No, heck no. I'm there to listen to the words that another person wrote.
I mean, this is so
Yeah.
off topic, but at a drive-in, you're not there to get the experience.
Is
of,
it a movie you've already seen?
It doesn't.
If it's a movie I've already seen, I'll talk through it.
It depends on the like how the date was arranged and how well you know them too, because like you can't take separate cars to a drive-in.
Moving on from that, going not from drive-ins. Yes, we're moving out of the drive-in.
I'm gonna edit all of that
We
out.
are moving on from American Adventure and staying in that topic. I think the Hall of Presidents is the worst, especially right now, the way the attraction is and the way the climate is. It could be the worst thing you ever bring a first date to, although maybe you should know a little bit more about your first date before you pop them into a politically charged attraction, or not politically charged
before
attraction.
I would
but you know what I
even
mean.
go out on the date, hopefully I would know to some extent
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
his political views.
But I mean, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. That's not something I ask everybody. Like, before we assume a lot of stuff, and
True, yeah.
that like. Your first date, talking about politics. I mean, that's only appropriate for two people who specifically like each other because they both will not shut up about politics ever.
Right.
But for everybody else, like, and you've got the American history aspect, which once again is fun but not exactly romantic. And then you've like, regardless of who's in office, somebody is always going to be commenting about the sitting president, and then your next conversation is going to follow that up, even if it's about people in the crowd or whatever. It's just awkward and weird, and you don't want to bring politics up on a first date ever.
Also,
and you don't
like-
want to be like forced to talk
I
about
want to be like, this is the part where Abraham Lincoln gives that rousing speech and the hand comes over and you're like, this is the moment I make my move.
I'll be honest. I don't think I even understood my wife's politics. Not like knew or understood until like about a year and a half ago. So it doesn't always come up for every couple. Unless
But
you
it would
want
after
to.
that.
Yeah, it would after.
Or
that
if it would be awkward silence if you already knew, or vice versa, if they already knew your views.
It just leads to too heated of a debate
Yeah.
or conversation,
Yeah.
or too. It's not what you want to talk about on your first date. Yeah,
the presidents of the United States.
even two people who agree on everything can still end up turning negative when they start talking about politics. So it's just never. It's not a date. Definitely not a first date romantic.
I don't think it's a date night period,
Yeah.
unless you are like a history major or something like that. But Craig's got another good type of attraction that he thinks are terrible date night ones, which is Toy Story. Midway Mania. Oh, it's not Midway Mania anymore, right? But
Toy Story Mania.
Mania is.
Tell
he's
us why.
afraid of your. Tell us.
Oh, I am ultra competitive. I will not
super.
try to hide that. No, it's like it's beyond. My eyes start bulging out. I just lose my gosh darn mind.
Well, on that
And
ride, when you're pulling your trigger.
Yeah, and
It reveals
we already know what I look like when I pull the
Yeah.
trigger. So if you not go watch the vlog on it, it's really funny. It's really hilarious. But no, I am the type of person that it has to be a competition. There's no way around it.
The
And
definition of a game is like you're keeping score. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose.
much to my wife's chagrin, I do try to do that all of the time, and it's something that she's come to accept.
That
She doesn't like it.
You won't
but-
let her win.
What's that?
You won't ever let her win.
He doesn't let
anybody
I don't
win.
let her win. She has beaten me at things before.
I thought you were going to be like, I've let her finish a puzzle, like something like.
No, but we
I
even
did give her the last piece.
no, we fight over that sometimes too. Like we don't fight, but it's both of us.
A race to get to the
That's
last
where
piece?
we start. Yeah, we each start grabbing them because
Yeah.
like we know one of us is going to get to
Yeah.
it. So she doesn't help the situation either because she indulges. But it's not where you really want to start a first date on like a super competitive mode. That's why we said it before the show, and I'll say it now in public. That's why I would never do miniature golf as a first date or bowling, because your bad sides, if you have that bad side to you, that dark side, it's going to come out, and a lot of people don't think that's pretty. So unless
my last date.
unless you're used to someone who is also a power person that wants to win and eager, you might want to hit the brakes on it and do alien swirling saucer instead, where there'll be lots of sliding.
I do like the sliding. Charles brought up another good one that definitely is in my realm of the you want to get somebody sick and have them associate this stuff, but it brings up even more fears than just claustrophobia is Mission Space at Epcot.
Yeah. You, depending on your stomach and what level you choose, you might get nauseous. And then there are 2 of you and there are 4 seats, and there's a chance that they will just throw other people in there with you.
In a claustrophobic
Yeah.
space.
So you're sitting there just like occasionally pushing a button, getting nauseous, not really being able to have your own conversation or be in your own space. And then they're just like, maybe there's a random stranger next to you.
And you're like, how do I emerge from this cocoon looking cool still? Like,
Yeah, it's not. And if you're at all claustrophobic, also occasionally, depending on you and the random strangers, there's a weird people smell in there. So that's not
People smell.
You don't want to. There are some smells in Walt Disney World that are not first date friendly, and that is one of them.
Didn't we do a best and worst smells of Disney World?
We did, and it was amazing.
Yeah, well. Well, we also, before we go, because those are all the ones that we think, that was Spaceship Earth, Teacups, American Adventure, Toy Story, Hall of Presidents, and Mission Space that we say are the worst first date attractions to go on. But we also have personal attractions that we've picked where we think that we'd be nervous about. How did you put it, Craig? We'd be nervous about bringing somebody because if it goes sour.
Yeah, you don't. Well, not even that. It's for me. It's. I don't think we could flesh out a whole show on it, but just a quick mention at it. Like, what's the one attraction that you wouldn't want to take a first date on, or any date in general, out of fear that they completely ruin that attraction for you forever? Your feelings on it. So for me, mine was the Enchanted Tiki Room. Like, my wife, again, she puts up with a lot of my crap, a lot of it, and there are moments where we both set each other up where we're like, we're going to share this thing that we really like with each other. And it's like, we just going to sit there and stare at you waiting for like your positive reaction to it. And for me, the Enchanted Tiki Room, if I can remember back to it, she did fake it for a little bit, but, not really the entire thing. And you can tell when a person's generally not enjoying something, and she will put up with it every now and then, but she hates doing the Enchanted Tiki Room with me, and it hurts so bad inside so that's like one that's like, I almost wish we would have never just done it together now, because it will never be the same.
Mine is Country Bear Jamboree. I think I don't want to hear about how you don't get it, or I get it. The animatronics are old. Yes, that does need an update. Yes, the sound sometimes isn't great. I understand, but I want you to be like, don't you think it's funny how oddly sexual that attraction is? Or like that's a weird, like it is. Let's all not pretend like it isn't. And it just has a lot of like it's that weird Americana that I'm like, you don't understand. The beauty is the age of this attraction. You know, it's a thing for me. Like it would make me, I don't know. I'd be a little like, I'm a little sad now. And I think if I knew in the beginning, I'd be like, hit the bricks, we're done.
If you can't laugh through Country Bear Jamboree, do you really have a soul?
Yeah. That will be next in our best and worst philosophical statements on things. What about you, Charles?
So I thought about this a little differently. Mine was more of like a breakup song thing. Like, you know, if there's a band you like and then you start dating somebody and you play a song and they like that song and you both like this song and then they break up with you like a year later, 2 days later, it doesn't matter. Now, what used to be your favorite song just reminds you of crippling heartbreak
Like
and failure.
Eiffel 65.
Yeah. So mine was Thunder Mountain because I just flashed forward in my head to doing a first day on Thunder Mountain and like really caring about this girl and like maybe falling in love a bit. And then we break up. And then a year later,
Cut to Charles in the back just crying.
every time I'm riding Thunder Mountain, I'm just sitting alone, softly weeping to
But I
myself.
imagine
while
you have
I'm
a
going-
white handkerchief in your hand that slowly comes up to dab the tears on either side as you go over the hills.
Because I love that ride, and it's just unadulterated joy for me. And, it's like a favorite song thing. So if that was ruined because if there was some like shared, I associated that with a person instead of just fun, then yeah, there's nothing sadder than being sad on Thunder Mountain.
Well, it is. Oh, I was about to be like, it is the happiest ride in the wilderness. That's not the expression. I made that up.
It's the happiest train that ever set sail.
Okay, yeah, there it is. Speaking of that, what a segue into Teresa's.
Wow.
It's a small world.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't put someone on there for the first time with me if I didn't know them. It holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And I want the person to feel the same way that I feel about it.
What if they're like,
And what if they go on and they laugh through the whole thing?
Yeah.
And it's just,
or they make fun of it?
They make fun of it.
Yeah.
Or they're scared.
The children.
and that would be my last date, my first and last date with that person. I rode it once with my husband. We were already into the marriage 20 years, or
So you didn't
I would
know
have
yet.
given it. I didn't know yet. He's never ridden it with me. He won't ride it again because I feel differently about it than he does. And when you get to the heaven room, how can you not love that? You know?
I understand. That's actually, I also feel the same way. I'll put my last one in here was the Carousel of Progress. Is that I get it. It's getting dated, but I don't know. I just love the song. And I went on with my grandparents. So it's one of those where I'm like, I want other people to be like, oh, don't you see? It's that aging.
To feel
it's an
it,
old
yeah.
type of a thing. Yeah. And you're like, I get that it's not the same type of attractions that we make anymore, but.
And
I
they
think-
come off and throw sarcasm at you about
Yeah.
it.
And
It's
you're like,
"Mm,
oh, no.
you've hurt me.
That's one of the problems with taking somebody if they're new to the parks is that any ride that a large part of your love comes from nostalgia, but to somebody who's never been there is not going to be one of the newer impressive
Yeah.
ones. Like it's a very specific personality who's going to like ride Carousel of Progress for the first time at the age of, like in their 20s or 30s, modern times, and be like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They might not get why you like it because they don't have the nostalgia to it.
I hope I would never get to that first date and know the person enough to know that he,
You don't want to get to that point where you're like, oh, I know.
I already know.
This thing about
Before
you.
I even get to the first date, I'm hoping I would know enough about the person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there you have it. That is the worst first date attractions, in our opinion, of Walt Disney World. If you are listening to this on iTunes, please feel free to rate and review the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to start that whole part over again. We're cutting that out.
No, we're not.
No, leaving it in. I thought I would speak in vegetable terms, and
Peas,
it was
mushy
I'm
peas.
too embarrassed. Yeah, that's why I was peas and carrots. Thank you.
You're doing great.
Please subscribe to the channel. You can and click that bell. You'll get updated whenever you get ridiculous content like this and stuff like that. But thank you everybody for having this discussion. Thank you all out there for listening and watching. We'll see you next time with another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World.